Hey folks, so here's the chair assisted routine you can do at home from a hotel room when you're traveling or at home on a weekend where you don't really feel like going anywhere. We're going to go through hip and shoulder stretches, core strengthening drills, as well as boosting shoulder stability, mobility, and also strengthening the lower limbs. So basically, full body approach. So follow along and enjoy.
Okay, part one, and we're focusing on the lower body. So grab a chair and let's begin with hip flexibility. We're working on hip external rotation, passive range of motion, as well as stretching the posterior part of your hip, side of the hip, sort of in the gluteal region. So you want to apply a anterior pelvic tilt rather than just rounding the lower or middle back as you folding towards the thigh, because we want to specifically affect the hip and not so much the lumbar spine. You can apply a bit of pressure on the thigh and turn away as I'm showing you in the video and explore. You can start building up the stretch holds. Many people usually kind of give up after 30 seconds, but remember, for your tissues to receive a solid stimulus, we would be aiming for about 90 seconds plus. Moving on to hip adduction with a bit of thoracic rotation. So you pulling your knee towards the chest and you also bring the thigh across the midline. So this is a little bit more for piriformis, for the kind of deeper muscles of the hip posteriorly that lie underneath the glute max. Okay, next one, we're staying with the theme of passive hip external rotation. So here is your variation of a pigeon on the chair. I've covered hip external rotation excessively in one of my past videos, so I'm dropping the link up here in the corner. But this variation is pretty good for those of you who maybe are a little bit tighter in the hip flexors, and if the pigeon is quite difficult on the ground, this may be a suitable variation, especially if you don't have access to a bench. You can do this obviously on the sofa. Ideally, your chair will be nicely padded and cushioned, so it's fairly comfortable. So you can play around with the angles in the knee and hip, see how far down you can go with your torso to that calf, and follow the sensation. And again, 90 seconds on the stretch to begin with. Okay, moving on to like a variation of a sumo squat where we're working on the hip hinge as well as on adductor flexibility and strength. So here's, guys, we're trying to get the stretch to the inner thigh, so get your knees out and really ground through your heels. If you cannot reach the ground comfortably while maintaining nice and neutral back, then come up onto your knuckles or place books or blocks below your hands. You can add this variation of a thoracic rotation. I think it's quite a nice combo to work on multiple areas of the body and kill a few birds with one stone. Of course, you can progress and kind of slide your sit bones off the chair or maybe go into actually deeper squat if you can. So that's basically just 3 variations of the same exercise. And now, guys, we're adding a little bit of back strengthening. So here we're using our upper limbs. We'll be literally reaching forwards, working on a bit of a flexion of the shoulders, and that will work not only through your erector spinae muscles along the spine, but also through the trapezius superficially. And make sure you're heavy through the feet, so lower back is not doing all the work here. You actually want to push your feet down and engage your lower limbs. It's basically like a preparation for an overhead squat. Next, we've got a deductor stretch. So we are working on stretching through the inner thigh, as well as we're targeting the hamstrings in this position. So be mindful that maybe chair will be too high for you. Maybe this is a too intense of a variation. Maybe you need to stay higher. Maybe the chair needs to be lower, or maybe you're simply using blocks instead of a chair. So it'll be pretty intense. So if you're already fairly flexible and you just want to work a little bit deeper into the stretch, this is quite an interesting one. Another setup for flexibility of the hip, we are targeting here quadriceps and iliopsoas. So basically all the hip flexors and knee extensors. So it's a progression. By pulling the heel to the sit bone, you're basically performing a couch stretch. But it's a little more accessible for most people than doing this on the ground with the foot against the wall. So you can explore that with the progression of pulling the heel to the sit bone, or just let the foot rest against the edge of the chair. Now, while performing the stretch, remember that it's important to tuck your pelvis, tuck your tailbone under, so the pelvis goes into posterior tilt. So here I'm demoing how this looks like. That will open up the crease of the hip, the front of the hip, and will create a little bit of lengthening through your iliopsoas and rectus femoris. And of course, let's not forget the hamstrings, which for many people are quite problematic and on the tighter side. So you can use this variation here, just simply supporting your hands on the chair, so this is not as intense. And by either rotating your thigh bone and foot inwards or outwards, you'll be targeting either medial or lateral hamstrings. Also, by pulling your toes towards you, as I'm doing in a clip, you will be creating a little bit more pull on the back of the knee and hamstrings, as well as calves. You can progress the stretch by placing the foot on the chair. The higher the chair, the higher the surface, obviously the more intense the stretch, potentially. But we still want to prioritize hinging at the hip. So you want to tilt your pelvis anteriorly rather than just rounding from the lower back. The goal is to move the ischium, which is the sit bone, away from the insertion of the hamstrings, which is just below the knee on the tibia, like the lower leg. So here you see again how I am gently rotating on the heel, trying to target either lateral or medial hamstring. So stay with whatever is tighter. Move the tailbone away from the heel, send it back and upwards. You don't have to fold very far. You can stay up higher. What you're chasing is sensation of stretch, 2 points, 2 insertion points moving away from one another, and not just the perfect shape. And I'm also dropping a link to my video about front splits, where I cover excessively hamstring flexibility if you want to explore this further. So you can also add the calf stretches. So again, if you spend a lot of time on your feet, this will be just one way to approach this. So you're trying to create as much dorsiflexion in the ankle, so pulling the toes to the shin or shin to the toes. So that will affect your soleus and gastrocnemius or gastroc, which form together Achilles tendon. And then using the leg of a chair, you can also work on stretch of the sole of the foot, calf muscles, by simply bringing your big toe against the leg of a chair. So you're putting your big toe in extension, which is again a topic I've covered because it's quite essential for locomotion and good biomechanics. So I'm dropping the link up in the corner where you can focus specifically on your feet and toes. So here we're stretching flexor pollicis longus, which is actually a muscle that originates in your calf, deep in your calf. And play around with those. If you know you have quite rigid big toe, apply this technique and this drill. It may help you with better lunges, better walking. And then try obviously that plantar fascia stretch, simply sitting on your heels with your toes tucked in extension, and that should get to the sole of the foot. Okay, we are done with stretches. Let's move on to a few drills you can do to strengthen the lower body using a chair. So again, cushion your foot, maybe a little pillow below the foot if needed, when you're trying to do this variation of the Bulgarian split squat. Notice what I'm adding here is that pelvic rotation around the front femur. So in this video, my right hip drops down below the level of the left hip. You can see that I'm turning, trying to bring my pubic bone and pelvis towards the left inner thigh. Let me show this again. So I'm loading through my right leg. And as I'm tilting forwards and I'm dropping the left hip down to the ground, my right glute will go on stretch. And that's what we want. Really ground through the heel. Your knee should be going slightly ahead of the heel towards the toes. You don't have to go super low, but you may notice how this actually engages and activates your glutes much more than just doing regular vertical body lunge. And then finally, we're moving on to the posterior chain strengthening, to glutes and hamstrings. And this is just a single leg bridge variation, foot elevated. Notice I'm pushing the foot into the edge, so midfoot into the edge of the chair. So that hopefully will work, well, not only glutes and hamstrings, but also activates your quads. And make sure the chair is propped against the wall so it doesn't slide. And that's just for safety. And notice that I'm pushing off one leg, the other knee goes to my chest. So I'm actually blocking lumbar spine from extending. It will also be a little bit more specific to your hip joint if you do so that way. And then notice how I changed position of my feet. Now I'm placing the heel on top of the chair. And that is just to drive the feet down into the ground or into the surface of the chair and get more activation through the hamstrings and also calves. So basically all the muscles that flex the knee. And that's it for the lower body. See you in part 2.